500,000 people fled Beirut barefoot in the middle of the night as evacuation orders spread across entire neighborhoods and the war suddenly expanded beyond the front lines. And after Pete Hegseth warned the world to just wait, many experts believe the next 48 hours of the Iran-Israel conflict could be the most dangerous phase yet. It was Thursday night in Beirut. The Israeli military had just issued evacuation orders covering entire neighborhoods in the southern suburbs of the city. Not one street, not one block, entire neighborhoods, home to more than 500,000 people, ordered to leave immediately, and they ran. A flower shop owner named Hussein told CNN reporters on the ground, "I saw people running out of their buildings barefoot, family chat groups filled with desperate messages for relatives to get out. Cars jammed every road leading north. People who had already been displaced once during the 2024 war with Israel found themselves displaced again. They had rebuilt their lives. They had come back, and now they were running again barefoot in the dark from bombs that had not yet fallen." That same night, on the other side of the world, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth stood before cameras and said something that every person watching this war needs to hear. He said, "If you think you have seen something, just wait." 6 days of bombing, thousands of strikes, Iran's supreme leader dead, Iran's navy at the bottom of the sea, Iran's air force destroyed. And the man running the American military stood up and said, "This has not even started in earnest. This is day 7, and I am going to tell you exactly what has changed, what is coming, and why the next 48 hours may be the most important of this entire war." Let us start with the Beirut evacuation because it reveals something important about the strategic logic Israel is now following. For the first 6 days of this war, Israel focused its Lebanese operations on southern Lebanon, where Hezbollah has its military infrastructure and its rocket launch positions. They struck command centers, weapons depots, financial networks, and senior commanders. They killed key Hezbollah and Palestinian Islamic Jihad figures. They pushed ground forces into border positions. It was a campaign of attrition designed to degrade Hezbollah's ability to keep firing rockets into Israel. But on Thursday, Israel shifted gears. It issued evacuation warnings covering nearly all of Dahir, the southern suburbs of Beirut. Dahir is Hezbollah's political and organizational heartland. It is where the group's leadership lives and operates. It is densely populated civilian territory, and Israel just told everyone in it to leave. The Israeli military chief confirmed the IDF is moving to what he called the next phase of the war. By Thursday night, Israeli jets had already carried out strikes in Beirut itself, not just the south of the country. The IDF said it had now conducted 2,500 strikes using more than 6,000 weapons in Lebanon alone since the start of the conflict. And the defense minister ordered troops to push deeper into Lebanese territory, seizing 16 additional positions beyond the border zone. What Israel is doing is telling Hezbollah, "We are coming for your headquarters next." The evacuation order is not just humanitarian. It is a military signal. Clear the civilians so we can destroy the infrastructure underneath them. And the 500,000 people who fled Thursday night were the collateral human cost of that signal being sent. Lebanon's government, already struggling to control the situation, made another dramatic move. It announced the withdrawal of visa-free travel for Iranians. This is Beirut trying to send its own signal to Tehran. Do not drag us further into your war. But the Lebanese government has no ability to stop Israeli jets and no real leverage over Hezbollah. It is a government issuing statements into a void while its country burns. Now let us talk about what Pete Hegseth actually meant when he said, "Just wait." The United States military has been using a combination of cruise missiles, bunker buster bombs, B-2 stealth bombers, fighter jets, and drones throughout this campaign. These are not new weapons. These are the most advanced conventional weapons in the American arsenal, and they have been in use since day one. But U.S. Central Command confirmed this week that the military is now deploying what it called a number of new capabilities. They did not specify what those capabilities are. That is deliberate. In warfare, surprising your enemy with weapons they have not seen before and cannot yet defend against is a force multiplier. If Iran does not know what is coming, it cannot prepare for it. What might these new capabilities be? Military analysts watching this conflict have raised several possibilities. Directed energy weapons that can destroy electronics and communications infrastructure. Hypersonic missiles that travel too fast for any existing air defense to intercept. next-generation bunker buster munitions designed specifically to penetrate the deepest underground facilities Iran built after the last war, electronic warfare systems that can disable entire radar networks simultaneously. Whatever these capabilities are, Hegst's message was clear. Iran and the world has been watching 6 days of strikes and thinking it understands the scale and nature of what the United States can do. Heggs is saying that assessment is wrong. The full force has not been applied. What has happened so far is in his framing the opening act. If you think you have seen something, just wait. The most alarming tactical development of day 6 and 7 is something that most news coverage has not emphasized enough. Iran has begun targeting THAAD radar systems. THAAD stands for Terminal High Altitude Area Defense. It is the most advanced American anti-missile system currently deployed in the region. It works by detecting incoming missiles and drones at long range, tracking them, and launching interceptors to destroy them before they reach their targets. The radar is the brain of the entire system. Without the radar, the interceptors are blind. Satellite imagery analyzed by multiple intelligence firms showed that Iran has identified the locations of the AAD radar systems in the Arabian Peninsula and is directing strikes specifically at them. Iran is not just trying to overwhelm American air defenses by firing more missiles than the systems can intercept. It is trying to surgically destroy the sensors that make interception possible in the first place. If Iran succeeds in degrading THAAD radar capability, U.S. bases and American troops in the Gulf become significantly more vulnerable. The interception rates that have been so impressive, stopping hundreds of Iranian missiles and drones over the past week, depend on those radars working. Destroy the radar, and the missiles start getting through. This also explains something else. Gulf states have already been warned by analysts that their interceptor missile stockpiles could run critically low within 1 to 2 weeks at the initial pace of Iranian attacks. If Iran can also blind the systems that guide those interceptors, it does not need to overwhelm them with volume. It just needs to make them unable to see. This is Iran fighting smart even as its missile stockpile depletes. It is not just firing and hoping, it is trying to methodically dismantle the defensive architecture that is protecting American forces from its remaining weapons. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi gave an interview from inside Tehran on Thursday that every person watching this conflict needs to understand. He sat in front of cameras with bombs falling around his city and spoke to NBC News anchor Tom Lamas. He was asked directly, "Has Iran asked for a ceasefire?" His answer was, "No, there is no request for a ceasefire." He was asked about negotiations with the United States. He said there is no reason why Iran should negotiate with Washington because Washington cannot be trusted. He said Iran went to the table in good faith in Oman and in Geneva. Iran made concessions, and the United States launched a war anyway. He was then asked whether Iran was afraid of a U.S. ground invasion. He struck a tone that carried no fear. He said Iran is confident it could counter any ground operation by American forces. He said Iran has been preparing for this scenario for years. He said the IRGC and Iran's ground forces are ready. These are remarkable statements to make publicly when your country's military has been under sustained bombing for 7 days. But Araghchi is making a specific argument that is aimed at multiple audiences simultaneously. For the Iranian people, he is projecting resilience and defiance to maintain morale. For the international community, he is framing Iran as the aggrieved party that came to the table and was attacked anyway. And for Washington, he is drawing a red line. If you send ground troops, this becomes something much worse. Trump has not explicitly said ground troops are coming, but Defense Secretary Hegst explicitly refused to take ground troops off the table when asked by reporters. And with the Senate having rejected the War Powers Resolution and the House having done the same, there is no congressional mechanism to prevent a ground escalation if Trump decides to order one. The gap between Iraqi's defiance and the reality of Iran's military situation is significant. Iran's air force is gone. Its navy is gone. Its missile stockpile is depleted by more than 80% compared to day one. Its senior military commanders are dead. Its supreme leader is dead. Its succession building was bombed. If American ground forces entered Iran, they would not be facing the military that existed a week ago. They would be facing whatever is left of the IRGC, dispersed, decentralized, operating on old general instructions, according to Iran's own foreign ministry, and fighting on home territory. That last part matters. History has shown repeatedly that conventional military superiority does not guarantee victory against a dispersed force fighting on its own soil among its own population. Let us talk about what the oil situation looks like on day 7, because the economic pressure of this war is building in ways that will affect every person watching this video regardless of where they live. Brent crude closed at 82.76 per barrel on Wednesday, extending 4 straight days of gains. It is hovering near its highest level since January 2025. The White House press secretary, when asked for a timeline on when the Strait of Hormuz would reopen, said she could not commit to a timeline. She said both the Department of War and the Department of Energy are monitoring the situation actively. She said if and when necessary, the U.S. Navy will escort oil tankers through the strait. The phrase "if and when necessary" is doing a lot of work in that sentence. The strait has effectively been at a standstill for 7 days. 150 tankers are still anchored in open water. The Ros Tanura refinery, the largest in the Saudi Aramco system, caught fire from an Iranian drone strike and was forced into partial shutdown. Qatar's LNG exports, which heat homes across Europe, Japan, and South Korea, remain stuck. Every day, this continues the energy market's price in more risk. Lloyd's of London, the global hub for maritime insurance, confirmed it is in discussions with the Trump administration after Trump announced that the U.S. government would offer political risk insurance and financial guarantees for maritime trade in the Gulf. This is an extraordinary step. The U.S. government effectively trying to backstop the global insurance market because the commercial market has repriced the risk of sailing through the Gulf as prohibitively high. When the U.S. government has to offer war risk insurance to get oil tankers moving, you understand how far outside normal this situation has become. In the United States, gas prices rose 12 cents in a single day last Monday, the biggest spike in 4 years. Analysts say they do not expect $4 gas nationally in the immediate term, but that assessment assumes the conflict does not dramatically escalate. And the defense secretary just said, just wait. There is a human story in this war that I want to make sure we do not lose in all the military and strategic analysis. ACL, the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project, reported that the human rights organization, HENGA, estimated at least 2,400 people have been killed inside Iran in the first 6 days of this war. 2,400. That number includes Supreme Leader Khamenei and senior military figures, but it also includes hundreds of civilians. It includes 165 schoolgirls in Manab. It includes the residents of apartment complexes in Thrawn whose buildings were struck. It includes KA's wife who died of injuries sustained in the opening strike. The 500,000 people who fled Beirut on Thursday night are not a statistic. They are families. They are children. They are elderly people who cannot move quickly. They are people who had already lost everything once and were building it back. And on Thursday night, they were running barefoot in the dark again. More than 9,000 Americans have left the Middle East under the State Department's evacuation advisory. The first chartered flight of stranded American citizens landed at Dulles International Airport near Washington on Thursday afternoon. There were emotional reunions at the terminal. People who had been trying for days to reach a helpline, waiting in hotels near bombed airports, were finally home. Japan confirmed 2 of its citizens are being held inside Iran and demanded their release. Tens of thousands of European nationals remain stranded across the region. The Dubai and Abu Dhabi airports, the world's busiest international transits, are closed. More than 1 million passengers cannot get home. So what happens next? Here is what we know for certain and what we are watching for. On the military side, the U.S. has announced new capabilities are being deployed. Israel has announced it is moving to the next phase. Both mean more strikes deeper into Iranian and Lebanese territory using weapons and tactics we have not seen yet. Hagath said accelerating, not decelerating. The general said expanding inland, striking progressively deeper. On the diplomatic side, Iran says no ceasefire and no negotiations. The U.S. Senate and House have both rejected efforts to constrain Trump's war authority. There is no international body with the power to impose a ceasefire that any of the parties would accept. China and Russia are calling for it. The UN is calling for it. Nobody with a bomb is listening. On the political side, the biggest wild card is public opinion inside the United States. A CBS News poll found most Americans disapprove of this war and think the administration has not clearly explained its goals. But that disapproval has not yet translated into the kind of political pressure that changes behavior in Washington. The midterm elections are still more than 2 years away. Trump has the Senate, he has the House, he has the military, and his defense secretary just said, just wait. The people of Beirut are already running. The people of Thrawn are already in shelters. The people of the Gulf are watching their oil refineries burn and their airports stay dark. And somewhere in the mountains of western Iran, Kurdish fighters armed by the CIA are moving deeper into territory that the Islamic Republic has held for 47 years. This war entered a new phase on day 7. The evacuation of 500,000 people from Beirut was not the beginning of that phase. It was the announcement of it. Day 8 is already underway. I will be here covering it. Subscribe and hit the notification bell. The next development could come within hours, and when it does,